When there are many passed pawns, it is impossible to keep them. d2 d4. Knight g8 f6. c2 c4. g7 g6. Knight b1 c3. d7 d5. Bishop c1 f4. Bishop f8 g7. e2 e3. c7 c5. d4 captures c5. Queen d8 a5. Rook a1 c1. d5 captures c4. Bishop f1 captures c4. Castling king side. Knight g1 f3. Queen a5 takes on c5. Bishop c4 b3. Knight b8 c6. Castling king side. Queen c5 a5. h2 h3. Bishop c8 f5. Black is not lagging behind in development and the position is completely equal. Queen d1 e2. Knight f6 e4. Knight c3 takes on e4. Bishop f5 captures e4. Rook f1 d1. Queen a5 h5. Bishop b3 c2. Bishop e4 captures c2. Queen e2 takes on c2. Queen h5 b5. a2 a4. Some kind of movement began. Queen b5 b4. Knight f3 e1. e7 e5. Bishop f4 g3. Rook f8 d8. Knight e1 d3. Queen b4 e7. Queen c2 c5. Rook d8 d6. b2 b4. Rook a8 d8. b4 b5. The game started with open visors. Rook d6 d5. Queen c5 c2. e5 e4. Knight d3 f4. Rook d5 captures d1. Rook c1 captures d1. Rook d8 captures d1. Queen c2 captures d1. Knight c6 b4. Queen d1 c1. Bishop g7 f6. Queen c1 c8. King g8 g7. Queen c8 b8. The whites began hunting for enemy infantry. a7 a6. b5 b6. Knight b4 c6. Queen b8 c8. h7 h5. Knight f4 e2. Knight c6 d8. Bishop g3 c7. Queen e7 e6. Queen c8 b8. Queen e6 d7. Bishop c7 e5. Knight d8 e6. Knight e2 c3. Queen d7 c6. a4 a5. h5 h4. Bishop e5 captures f6. King g7 captures f6. The black monarch began his voyage. Queen b8 h8. King f6 f5. Queen h8 captures h4. Here it is the first prey. Queen c6 captures c3. g2 g4. King f5 e5. Queen h4 h8. f7 f6. Queen h8 b8. King e5 d5. Queen b8 captures b7. The harvest continues. Queen c3 c6. Queen b7 b8. Knight e6 c5. Queen b8 g8. Queen c6 e6. Queen g8 captures g6. The chicken pecks at the grain. King d5 c4. h3 h4. King c4 d3. h4 h5. The white infantry was queened. King d3 e2. The incomprehensible desire of the black king. h5 h6. Queen e6 c4. h6 h7. King e2 e1. Queen g6 captures f6. 4 pawns against a knight, and 3 of them are passed pawns. Complete collapse for black.